Sometimes the most fascinating truths aren't the ones people say out loud. They're the ones written in their actions. Have you ever wondered if that one woman in your life is not just into you, but completely secretly obsessed? It's not always obvious. She won't tell you outright, but her behavior will leave a trail of subtle clues. The problem: it's easy to overlook or misread these signs, leaving you guessing about her true feelings. You could be missing the small tells, like how she mirrors your every move, or how she can't seem to resist touching you. Here's the solution. Watch closely for sign 3 and sign 10. These are where her feelings stop being subtle and start spilling over in ways she can't hide. Ready to decode her obsession? Let's dive in. 1. She mirrors you without realizing it. Have you ever noticed her sipping her coffee just as you take a sip of yours? Or maybe she leans back on the couch right after you do. This isn't coincidence, it's called mirroring. And it's an unconscious way people build connection and trust for a woman secretly obsessed. Mirroring becomes almost second nature. Let's say you're at a work function casually chatting, and you run your hand through your hair. Moments later, she adjusts her hair in the same way. Or during a lunch meeting, you notice she adopts your speech cadence, pausing when you pause, nodding when you nod. These aren't random quirks. Psychologically, mirroring happens when someone is deeply attuned to you, like they're silently saying, "We're in sync and I want you to notice." But what if she's not just mirroring you? What if she's always finding reasons to be where you are? Let's talk about that. 2. She's everywhere you happen to be. You're at your regular cafe on Tuesday morning, and there she is casually bumping into you. Next thing you know, she's joined the same gym or picked up an interest in that obscure hobby you mentioned once in passing. These are no happy accidents. When a woman is obsessed, she engineers opportunities to see you. Picture this: you're at a kid's soccer game, thinking it's just another Saturday. Suddenly there she is cheering from the sidelines, even though her nephew only played soccer 5 years ago. Or maybe you mentioned in casual conversations that you love a certain restaurant. Now she just happens to post about going there. Her obsession drives her to stay close to your orbit, and she finds clever, almost stealthy ways to do it. She's playing the long game, subtly positioning herself as a regular fixture in your life. If her timing always seems too perfect, wait until you see how her eyes give her away. 3. Her eye contact is a little too much. Too much. There's eye contact. And then there's that kind of eye contact, the one that feels like she's staring into your soul, or memorizing your face for future daydreams. If she's obsessed, her gaze will linger just a bit longer than normal. And if you catch her staring, she either hold it or quickly look away with a faint smile. Here's how it plays out. You're at a dinner party, and every time you glance her way, she's already looking at you. Or maybe she uses any excuse to lock eyes during conversations, asking for advice, seeking your opinion, or complimenting your latest project. Her pupils might even dilate. Biological response. That happens when someone is laser focused on you. The funny thing, she doesn't realize how obvious she's being. But you do. You feel her gaze like heat on the back of your neck. She can't help it, her eyes are doing all the confessing. Her words won't. But what about when her obsession goes from visual to physical? Let's dive into the subtle art of her accidental touches. For she finds every excuse to touch you. A touch on the arm, a playful nudge, adjusting your collar because it's crooked. When a woman is obsessed, she sees any opportunity to make physical contact, no matter how small. These moments aren't random. They're deliberate moves to feel closer to you. Imagine this: you're at a casual gathering, and as you're laughing at a joke, she places her hand lightly on your shoulder. Or maybe she's brushing past you in the kitchen, her hand grazing yours. The touches are fleeting, but they happen often enough to make you wonder, was that really an accident? Here's the kicker: these touches trigger the release of oxytocin, the bonding hormone, making her feel even more attached to you. It's like she's unknowingly fueling her own obsession. But hey, who's complaining? And if you think her touches are subtle, Wait until you notice her protective streak kicking in. 5. She's low-key territorial. This one's sneaky. She won't declare her obsession outright, but her actions will scream it loud and clear. If another woman is in the picture, she make her presence known, whether it's joining the conversation, steering you away, or cracking a joke that only you two would get. It's her way of saying back off. He's mine without actually saying it. Let's say you're at a networking chatting with a female colleague. Suddenly she appears out of nowhere, chiming in with a story that conveniently involves the two of you. Or she might casually place herself between you and the other woman, creating a subtle physical barrier. Her protectiveness isn't aggressive. It's calculated, like she's silently staking her claim. So what's behind this obsession? Often stirs feelings of jealousy. Even if she doesn't want to admit it, she sees you as hers, and any perceived threat to that makes her step up her game. It's one thing for her to be protective or territorial, but what if her obsession goes even deeper, into the way she notices every tiny detail about you, even things you've forgotten you shared? Let's talk about that. 6. She pays attention to every little detail about you. Ever had someone remember the tiniest, most throwaway thing you said weeks ago? Like how you prefer your coffee, or that one story about your high school band. If she's obsessed, her mental notebook is full of these details. She's not just listening, she's storing information like a vault. Picture this. You casually mention that you're a fan of a specific 80s rock band. Fast forward to a week later, and she surprises you with tickets to their reunion tour. Or maybe you told her your go-to order at your favorite deli, and suddenly she's bringing you lunch with exactly what you like. It's not coincidence, it's careful attention, driven by her constant thoughts about you. This hyper-focus is rooted in a psychological phenomenon called selective attention. When someone is deeply infatuated, their brain prioritizes everything about the object of their affection. It's flattering and maybe a little intense. But if you think her attention to detail is impressive, wait until you see how much she puts into making you laugh. 7. She laughs at everything you say, even when it's not funny. We all like someone who finds us hilarious, but when she's obsessed, her laughter becomes excessive. That sarcastic one-liner you weren't even sure was funny. She's cracking up the dry humor no one else gets. She's your biggest fan. Imagine you're at a dinner party telling a story you've told a dozen times. Everyone else chuckles politely, but she's in tears laughing, practically begging you to keep going. It's not that your material was bad. You're a funny guy, but her response goes beyond normal. What's happening here is classic behavior from someone trying to deepen a bond. Laughter releases dopamine, a feel-good hormone, and by laughing with you, or even for you, she's creating a connection that feels irresistible. Her laughter is just the beginning. Next, let's explore how her obsession shows in her constant communication. 8. She texts or calls you way more than normal. If she's obsessed, her communication with you will be frequent and sometimes unnecessary. That, "Hey, I just saw this and thought of you," text, the random call to ask a question she could have Googled. These are her ways of staying in your mind because you're constantly on hers. Here's a real-world scenario. You're at work and your phone buzzes. It's her sharing a meme about that obscure movie you mentioned once. Later, she texts again, this time with a question about something trivial, like your favorite pizza toppings. The point isn't the content, it's the frequency. Psychologically, this behavior stems from her desire for validation. Every reply you give reinforces her sense of connection to you, keeping her obsession alive. It's not always over the top, but it's definitely consistent. And while her communication keeps her on your radar, her next move might be even more obvious. How she always backs you up. 9. She defends you even when you're not around. Here's the thing about someone who's obsessed. They'll go to bat for you whether you know it or not. If someone criticizes you, she's the first to jump to your defense. And if you're not in the room, she's still your most loyal advocate. For example, imagine someone at a party is poking fun at your fashion choices because yes, you're still rocking that leather jacket. She chimes in saying something like, "Actually, I think it looks great on him." Or maybe a mutual friend questions one of your decisions, and she's quick to counter with how thoughtful and deliberate you are. This loyalty isn't just about kindness. It's about staking her claim. In her mind, standing up for you reinforces her role as someone who knows and values you more than anyone else. But defending your honor isn't her only move. Sometimes, her obsession pushes her into something even more: intriguing curiosity about your past. 10. She's weirdly interested in your dating history. This one's a classic. If she's obsessed, she wanna know about your exes. Not in a nosy way, well, not entirely, but because she's trying to figure out where she fits in your life. She might casually ask questions like, "So what kind of women do you usually date?" Or "What happened with your last relationship? Here's how it plays out, you're out for drinks." And she suddenly steers the conversation toward your love life. Maybe she brings up an innocent "Have you ever been in love?" Or more pointedly asks about your longest relationship. Her curiosity is fueled by a mix of jealousy and the need to understand what makes you tick romantically, psychologically. This stems from a concept called social comparison theory. She's gauging how she measures up to the women you've dated before and looking for clues about you might want in the future. Now that you've spotted these signs, the question is, what's your next move? Because trust me, she's already planning hers. If you're seeing these signs, don't just let them pass you by. Act on them, pay attention, lean in, and ask yourself, what's your next move? Because let's be real, if she's this obsessed with you, the only question left is, are you gonna notice her or let her obsession drive her crazy?